Hello and welcome to Project November, also known as Revisiting Earth's Mightiest Heroes. This is a rewatch podcast where essentially I'm going to try to go disc by disc. I don't know if I'm going to go episode by episode or if I'm going to treat this as just like one large whole where I don't know. It might be a case by case situation. It is genuinely up in the air. But something I do know and can confirm is that we are going to spend the next 6 weeks every Thursday at my usual time of 10 a.m. talking about Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. This show right here. We're going to be talking about... this is, of course, a beloved show, and we're going to go from November 7th to December 12th. Right, yeah, December 12th. And I'm very excited to talk about this show, and we are starting with Volume 1. So, yeah, kick back, relax. Hopefully, you find this informative somehow. And mainly, we are here to entertain you. I will be touching also briefly on when it comes time on my history with the show. This is basically going to be like my usual series reviews, but a bit more, bougie. So let's bouge it up. Okay, so this show stars the Avengers. It's the main four lineup plus some others from the films. So you have Iron Man, Hulk, Captain America, Thor, and the show, of course, adds over time, but adds Ant-Man, the Wasp, Hawkeye, and Black Panther to that list, and then, of course, Season 2 adds, like, a few more characters. But this is the core, did I say 7 names? The 7 Avengers who you grow to know and love over the course of this series. And the first 5 episodes are about what are these individual heroes doing before the show actually truly begins. Iron Man is headstrong and confident, but he's also very stubborn and gets himself into a lot of trouble because of his stubbornness. You have the Hulk who, Bruce Banner is just running around. He's basically the Bill Bixby Hulk. And this is the best Hulk depiction on screen we have ever had. Oh my god. This show spoiled us. Honestly, Mark Ruffalo and the MCU as a whole could have gotten us to this Hulk. But, Mark Ruffalo is just not that good of a voice actor. I'm sorry. He's a horrible Hulk. He's not the worst Hulk, but he's pretty bad. And, of course, the MCU has really started to fall off, and I think their biggest sin was their treatment of Hulk. I'm someone in the middle. I don't really like a lot of what they've done post-Endgame, but I've also liked a lot more than I think most, so I'm squarely in the middle. Even I think their Hulk is bad. Their Hulk's straight trash, and has been for a while. But this show spoiled us. You got Thor in one of the top 3 worst episodes of this entire show, Thor the Mighty. Terrible episode, but as you will see with the other episodes that I think are terrible, I will try to find one good thing about this episode, and that is, I think I like what Thor the Mighty does for the entirety of the show. This, just like Wolverine and the X-Men and just like Young Justice, Season 1, has an overarching narrative to it. You also have this in Spectacular Spider-Man. Spectacular Spider-Man is probably the best it has ever been done and probably ever will be done. But this is probably second best because you can tell that this creative team learned from their experiences with Wolverine and the X-Men. Wolverine and the X-Men, I think, has a lot of good strengths. It's just that there are also some episodes that, while connect to each other, don't connect to the overall whole. This show doesn't have that problem. Everything essentially connects to everything else, whether that is a Skrull invasion or Loki's secret plan at the end of the season 1. It all is very interconnected and very much woven into the show from second one almost. And that really, I think, helps this show stand out amongst the crowd of other Marvel shows. This is my personal favorite Marvel show. I'm a big Spider-Man kid. I love Spider-Man. This might be, or definitely is, I think, numero uno when it comes to Marvel shows, and possibly numero uno when it comes to just Marvel shows in general. Of course, Hulk versus the World, I think, is my favorite episode from this volume. I will try to do this with every installment of the series, where I will try to pick a favorite episode from each volume or possibly each disc. Depends on how great these final 26 episodes are, I guess. But I think Hulk vs. the World is absolutely my favorite. It has my favorite interpretation of Hulk. It does a really good job at, I think, establishing what makes the Hulk stand out amongst the other heroes. And it does a good job at setting up the sort of Black Widow Hydra conspiracy as well. Spoilers, by the way, for a show that is almost 15 years old. I guess it starts soon, right? Because, wow, I can't believe how true that actually is. Because this show, I think, starts in 2010 and then ends in kind of unceremoniously in 12. So this show is actually almost 15 years old. I didn't think about that before. You learn something new every day. Well, spoilers for it. Black Widow, I think this is maybe my least favorite interpretation of this character. I feel like, nothing against Vanessa Marshall. I love her as Hera. Hera is probably my favorite character that she's ever done. But even to this day, I can't decide if her flip-flopping from American accent to Russian accent is either a, spy code switching thing that the character is purposely doing, or is just bad acting because her Russian accent isn't super great. Now, I'm not a professional voice actor. I am not here to trash on Vanessa Marshall. I will just say that I have some questions about the overall acting ability that she puts forth. But this cast, speaking of, is amazing. You have Fred Tatasciore, Robert Downey Jr. impersonation, Brian Bloom, Chris Cox, Rick Worcestershire sauce. I'm sorry, that might be offensive. But you have the dude who played Hulk in Planet Hulk, which is my favorite Hulk movie of all time. He's Thor in this show. And that's really cool, especially since this show is kind of connected to a lot of different Marvel projects. This show is really the best of everything. And that casting of Thor is a good example of that, because he is pretty good as Thor. I think that this Thor is pretty fun. They do a good job at keeping him serious while also allowing him to have moments of comedy. It's just that Thor the Mighty isn't necessarily a great premiere episode for him. But yeah, I love it. Meet Captain America. This episode is really when you realize, holy shit, this show is going to be the greatest thing of all time. Because you have Nazis. Now, of course, as we've touched on in my thorough-ish review of X-Men, the animated series from the 90s, you can't say Nazi you can allude to Nazis, but you kind of can't say Nazis or show a swastika in children's programming. Now, on one hand, it's why can't you? And on the other hand, okay, they're Nazis. I can kind of understand why you maybe don't want to do that. But, that being said, I think Hydra is probably the best stand-in for Nazis that you could possibly have, compared to Justice League literally just having two SS's that stand for Vandal Savage somehow. That's probably the best. Nothing against Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, by the way. Those are two shows that I would love to talk about one day. Maybe not in this way, because that's been done before, but in some way. Maybe next year. But I shouldn't make any promises. Good God. This show has been on my list to review for like 2 years now. And I'm just now getting to it. So I shouldn't be making any plans because I'm terrible at planning. But no, this is great. You have a comic accurate Bucky. You see Jack, I believe his name is Jack Fury, who's later revealed to be Nick Fury's dad. Nick Fury's pretty good in this show. Nick Fury, this will be kind of important when it comes up again, maybe. Nick Fury and the actor who plays Bruce Banner, whose name might be Alex something, they play those respective roles in Wolverine and the X-Men, because this show is connected to Wolverine and the X-Men and Spectacular Spider-Man, loosely Spectacular Spider-Man. But this show was supposed to kind of at some point become the like linchpin of an entire Chris Yost influenced Marvel universe. This show is connected to, like I said, Wolverine and the X-Men, Spectacular Spider-Man, Hulk versus both films, Hulk versus Thor and Hulk versus Wolverine, and then is that it? Yeah, those are like the 4 shows that are kind of supposed to be in movies that are kind of supposed to be connected in a big television cinematic universe with this show. And so Meet Captain America has Jack Fury, Nick Fury's dad, or grandfather, and of course it also has Wolverine in a no claws type of appearance, which is pretty cool. And this show, just like Young Justice, I think has a excellent mastery over, because Marvel has all of the television rights to their characters. This show almost has an expert mastery of all of its players. You know, this is very much the Young Justice of the Marvel Universe, and is, frankly, in my opinion, has a bit of a better quality control than Young Justice. Now, to be fair to Young Justice, a lot of bad creative decisions happened there. And, of course, the hiatus happened, or the cancellation that became a let's bring the show back type of hiatus happened there. So those people may not have a big choice in how Young Justice's quality turned out to be, but genuinely straight up, this has better quality control than Young Justice. Then you have the Man in the Anthill, which is a title that has always confused me. I'm sure it's a reference to something, because Spider-Man's episode in season 2 is called Along Came a Spider, and that's like the name of a book that I learned about in high school. So I'm sure the Man in the Anthill is a reference to something. I just don't know what it is. This episode introduces, so Hulk versus the World introduced Hawkeye and Hulk. This episode introduces Black Panther and Ant-Man and the Wasp, but not in that order. And you wanna know what? This is a pretty good Ant-Man. This is probably the best interpretation of Hank that we will probably ever see, because Hank is a bit problematic, but Wally Winger, who is an exceptional actor, does a good job. And even Colleen O'Shalley? Is that her name? Also, Rick Weisterson is the guy who plays Thor. By the way, I think that's his name. But Colleen O'Shalley is the actress who plays Tails in not only the more recent Sonic games, but also the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. I'm gonna review the first two Sonic films. But if you go back to my original Sonic 2 review, I talk about how cool it is that they used an actual voice actress to play that role. Well, she plays Janet in this show, and is an exceptional Janet. The Wasp is truly a great character in this show, and I think part of that is not only the writing, but also Colleen's performance. And yeah, she's a great Wasp in the show. Captain America is also great. This entire cast is great. Chris Cox as Hawkeye is amazing. He talked about how I want to say I heard him on a podcast. This was on TikTok. I heard him on a podcast recently say that he came in, I think, to read for a different part, and they're like, "Hey, can you read for this part?" I think he said Iron Man. He said, "Hey, can you do this part?" And it was the part of the interview that got, or the part of the not interview. That's for a regular job. The part of the audition that got him the Hawkeye job was like Tick Tick Boom or something like that. It was his reading of that line, I think, that got him the role of Hawkeye. And you want to know what? Honestly, you can see it. This entire cast is truly amazing. But yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp, like, this is a good introduction to them. It's a good sort of introduction to their dynamic. Hank is like a workaholic scientist who's very much a dork, and Janet is a thrill seeker. She wants to be a superhero. She wants the hustle and bustle life of, living in the firehouse. Something she says in the next volume, I believe. She wants to be a hero. Hank doesn't want that, and you can kind of see where, even this early on, where possible tensions can lie, because Hank is kind of a heart on his sleeve pacifist, but I was trying to think of the word, forgive me. A heart on his sleeve pacifist, but you can still see where his character can end up being what he becomes in season 2. And it's all just great. This show does a really good job at setting up its mystery and its overall mythology really well. And then, of course, all of these characters culminate, except for Captain America, really, but all these characters culminate in The Breakout, which is the big 2-part event that kicks off the entire show. The Breakout, which is episodes 6 and 7, is great. We set up early on in the show that there are like 4 prisons. There's the Raft, which is, the secret prison, but it's it's not like it is in the Insomniac games, where it's a maximum security prison off the coast of Manhattan. It is literally just a raft, like a garbage barge, and underneath the garbage barge is an elevator that leads straight to an underwater prison. That's what the raft is in this universe. You have the big house, which is this prison that is literally on a table and has been shrunk down thanks to Ant-Man. And then you have the Vault, I believe it's called, and the Cube. The Cube is in the middle of the Nevada desert and is the house of all of the Hulk's villains, all these gamma irradiated villains. And that will come up next volume in one of my favorite episodes of the whole show. Top 10. Maybe I'll do a top 10 possibly at the end of the show. That could be the bonus episode, because I kind of want to do a bonus episode, y'all, and I didn't know what to do for it. But that might be the bonus episode. Stay tuned. Also, I hope I'm doing good. I hope this is engaging. This is basically like a regular review, just like I said, a bit bougier. But all the villains, all 52, apparently they're DC fans over at Marvel, all 52 villains break out, and now the Avengers have to assemble to get them back to jail, back to the slammer, y'all. And what truly sets up and what truly assembles and brings together the Avengers is Graviton. Graviton is, of course, also played by Fantasia, exceptional actor. He's the best Hulk ever. He truly, I think, shines as the Hulk in this show, by the way. But Graviton, who is this scientist who tried to work with gravity, and ended up giving himself the powers of gravity itself, now wants revenge on Nick Fury because Nick Fury basically put him in prison for, I think it says 8 years. Like the text at the bottom screen, I think says 8 years. And it's like, oh, wow, damn. I'd be upset if I was in prison for 8 years too and was essentially in a coma that entire time. Like a medically induced coma. Like he's in stasis. And of course, Baron Zemo, the drama dancing queen of the North, is like, I think you've been here longer than me, and I have been here for 6 years. Like, god damn, Zemo, where'd that sass come from? I'm just kidding. Like, Zemo isn't coded to be gay, but like Zemo really does have like sassy queen energy in this show. Yeah, like oh my gosh. But no, like this show is great, and Zemo is great. Totally not like this show is basically the MCU, but better. This show truly is. We'll get to that like later, but this show is truly MCU, but better. In like almost every conceivable way. But they come together to defeat Graviton. Graviton is talking about how he is the strongest thing there is because he can literally control gravity itself. And then he realizes that, oh, the Hulk exists because the Hulk is literally stronger than gravity, because of course he is. He's the Hulk. And it's just so cool. You have that big hero moment where after because the Avengers don't see the Hulk as a bad guy. You know, everyone sees Hulk as a monster. They're like, oh wait, this guy just helped us. He's cool. And it's so cool. It's so great. And I just love the show. I will say, kind of like with Aaron, whatever, the guy from Heroes who's like, so Jack from This Is Us, I think became famous partly due to his role on Heroes. And his character on Heroes has an older brother who's a senator, and that guy his name is like Aaron something. He actually plays Iron Man in Avengers Assemble, which is the next Avengers show after this show gets canceled to look more like the MCU. He is Hugo Strange in Young Justice. This sounds like a major non sequitur. He is Hugo Strange in Young Justice, and he is, I think, the worst casting I've ever heard in a superhero cartoon. This show has that for one character, and that one character is Ross. They got like a high-pitched, girly-sounding man to play Ross in this show. He's terrible. I have to say that immediately because he's in like the third episode of the show. They punished us with that Ross voice. I'm going to tell you that I'm unhappy about it in the first episode of this series. But Iron Man, this is where the segue comes in. Iron Man is a Robert Downey Jr. impersonation. And I remember back Thanksgiving break 2010 thinking, was that Robert Downey Jr.? Mom said, well, that's probably an impersonator. And this was the first time that I truly learned what an impersonator was. Because I was a kid. I was like 11. I don't know what an impersonator is. My mom was like, well, that's probably an impersonator. I was like, oh. And I will say, when he's like yelling, you can kind of tell it's not him. And I think he's the same guy who plays them in like What If. So this guy went from doing like the gameplay dialogue in the Iron Man game, because Robert Downey Jr. was in the like major cutscenes of the Iron Man game, but he wasn't like Iron Man in the main game, right? So he went from being Iron Man in the gameplay only segments to playing Iron Man and Iron Man 2, the video game, to doing this show, to long hiatus, being in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite? Is that what it's called? To being in Marvel's Ultimate Alliance 3, to being in What If. He's made it to the big leagues. Now, y'all. And you know what? I like it. I like his voice because 90% of the time, he sounds like Robert Downey Jr. Would I rather him just sound like Iron Man? Or like, would I rather an Iron Man voice be more just like regular and not a Downey impersonation? Yes. But you wanna know what? He's probably the best Downey impersonation that we're probably gonna get. And this show is just great. The show has stupendous action, great animation, and a really great score. I believe Guy something, who did the score for the direct-to-video, like, Lionsgate Marvel animated films, you know, from Ultimate Avengers to Thor Tales of Asgard. I believe he does the score for this show. They at very least use his Iron Man theme from Invincible Iron Man. In this show, I believe he does the score for this show. It's amazing. Of course, the theme song is one of the greatest superhero opening themes ever. First I was alone, or something, but now I'm not alone. Avengers assemble. Always we will fight as one. It's great. And it's just a great show. I may subject you to guys to periodic singing of that theme song because it is great. It's a great theme. I love it. I miss awesome superhero I just miss awesome intro sequences in general. Like the one for George and Mandy's first wedding, which is a Young Sheldon spinoff, is kind of obnoxiously long, but I think it's the longest intro to a show that I've seen in years. And it's literally just like a minute-long dance number. I don't know, y'all. It's great. And I think that's it for Volume 1. Because, yes, I love this show. It has great animation, great acting, great action. It's really well written. It just does a lot of things right. And is truly the Young Justice of Marvel projects. And I love it. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. Because, like I said, we're going to be here the entire month, sitting here down with y'all, and specifically talking about the show. I do have other content, if you are so inclined. I hope you enjoyed this look at it, because I imagine a lot of you guys are going to watch this because of the show I'm talking about. But yeah, it's just, this is a great show. I love it. I can't wait to talk about part 2 or volume 2 with y'all. And I'm very curious to see how I handle season 2, because season 2, while only being 2 volumes, 2 discs each. So yeah. Although I will say, I don't know if I went necessarily episode by episode, but I also kind of did. I'm very curious to see what I'm doing here, because this is, it's the Dan Richardson show. You know what you're getting. We are making it up as we go along. So remember that God made you special. He loves you very much. I hope you had a very lovely day. I hope you had a very lovely week, because it is Thursday. And God bless and Avengers Assemble.